Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us during your lunch hour. We are hosting this 1 hour office hour to give you an overview of program area reporting, conduct a brief demo of CASA's West Ed, and just open it up for any questions that you have around this reporting requirement. My name is Myra Diaz, and I'm with the Chancellor's Office, program lead for the adult education program, and I will hand it over to my colleague, Neil Kelly.
Thanks, Myra. Neil Kelly, California Department of Education, and I'm joined by my colleague, Diana Batista.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Nice to see you here.
And back to Mandalee.
Back to Mandalee. Thanks.
All right. So like everyone has said, we're going to go over the program area report, and one of those is going to be just the quick walkthrough of NOVA. So a lot of you are familiar with it. I understand that this is something that's done once a year, so it is one of those tasks that can be easy to forget. So I'm sharing screen now. Is everyone seeing NOVA? Yes, or someone? So okay, so I had
Yes.
okay. Yes. I have like 1,000 screens, and sometimes I just don't know if it's seeing what you're supposed to. So when you log into NOVA, you're going to select CAEP. Once you select CAEP on the left-hand navigation bar, you'll see the different reporting areas that you can pop into. The program area report is here. You would select your program area report. Make sure that you are in the correct year. And then find your consortium. And we're going to go ahead and continue to use Allen Hancock. When you're in the member agency program area report, there are just a few things that we ask that you take a look at. You should see the list of all of your active members here. And once you see that, sorry, I'm going to continue to move on. You will then go in and if you are with Allen Hancock Joint CCD, you're going to click on that. This is where your member agency will input all of their program hours. Once you're selected the member agency that you're inputting information for, this secondary workflow navigation bar will pop up and you'll see the different areas that need to be completed. I am in the live site, so I am not going to click on anything I shouldn't, but I do want to just walk you through what you're going to see. When you open this up, you will see the 2021-2022 launch board data. This is something that you can move past. It is something there just to have an awareness of, but we'll have more information on that later on in today's office hours. If you are completing this and you're not funded member, then you're not required to complete the program area reporting. You still must go into NOVA and then click this box here. That is still a requirement of all of our members. So that way the full report can be submitted to the state. Then you continue to scroll down. You'll have the various areas of your CAEP program areas, and then you will add in the hours here. You see all of the boxes where you can input information. And then once you input information, it'll take you to your leveraged funds. When you have hours of instruction in the program area hours, it will open up the boxes under ABE, ASC, all of the program areas, and then you will select how that is funded. So that can look like if you have hours in ABE, you can fund that by your CAEP dollars. You might fund that maybe by some CalWORKs dollars or whatever additional funding streams you've used for that program. If you do not see your funding stream there, you can add another funding stream by selecting add another funding stream. And there are a whole list of different types of funding that you can add to ensure that you're reporting all of the dollars that are used to fund that program at your agency. When you're done, you'll select next, or you can hit preview. It'll go through all of those pieces that you just completed. And then, well, because it's not done, once it's done, then you would click submit. So that's your overview in a quick nutshell. Is there anything else anyone would like to add or any questions? Okay.
Question really quick. Hi, I'm Virginia Mendoza from Sweetwater. My question is, you talked about the submit button. I don't see that on my end. I'm wondering if maybe I'm not doing something correctly, but maybe I can reach out to you after.
Absolutely. So so it could just be your level of like what rates you have within Nova. So I'm going to throw in the chat, tap at caladulted.org. I would reach out to us. We'll set up a one-to-one and we can just do a simple Zoom quick meeting. You can share screen and then we can troubleshoot together.
Wonderful.
So
Virginia?
Mandalay, just to confirm, so if you're the member rep, you would have the ability to submit. If you were other than the member rep, you might not have that ability to submit, correct?
Yes, that's yeah, that's how I understand it.
So that could be
And-
Virginia's problem.
All right. And then Virginia, I know you don't need to actually email, but if anyone else does have any issues, you can email Virginia. I'll send you a Zoom invite and we can figure this out in the next couple of days or later on this afternoon.
Natalie,
Okay.
there's another question in the chat. Do we put in
Oh.
exact amounts?
Yes, so you want whole amounts. So I would say your whole amount. So you can't put in 12.5 hours, it's 12 hours or 13 hours. So they're whole numbers. You can't put in decimal numbers. Thank you. I didn't see that question. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint. If I can find it. There we go.
Mandalay, there was a question about the report generally, or when is it due? It's generally due December 1st on an annual basis, but because December 1st falls on a Sunday, we extended the deadline to Monday, December 2nd.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. All right. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and do you want to go through the slide deck, Myra? Should we turn it over back to you, or would you like to hunt it to someone else?
So just a brief recap, but we're going to turn this over to Jay. Just a brief recap. The memo was released earlier this week. And the memo, there's a link being dropped in the chat as well. Really, the memo contains a lot of the details, instructions, Q&A, as well as Nova snapshots, step-by-step information that can help address a lot of the inquiries that you might have. But certainly during this office hour, we're happy to help address any questions or connect with CAEP TAP for a one-on-one to help address your specific needs. We will be taking this opportunity as well to, we have Jay with us from CASAS, who will help conduct an overview of where you can find the report to collect your hours in CASAS TE. And then we'll also conduct a very brief overview of Data Vista. As you noticed, there was some data from Launchboard, and I'll speak to that a little bit more once we get to that part. But I'll go ahead and hand it over to Jay, and he'll go over the TOPS Pro reporting and where you can find that. Jay?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share. Hopefully, let's see, it's showing that it's sharing right now. So hopefully everybody agrees with my computer that it's sharing. So I just have a couple quick slides here. You can see there's a glare. I'd say I'm in a boardroom that's poorly lit, but that would be wrong. It's actually exceptionally well lit, as you can see from the glare behind me. So I'm running remote, so I'm just showing a few slides. In any case, the report you want to use in TE to complete this reporting is called CAEP Program Hours. It was created for this specific purpose back in 2018. It's still a good one to use. It basically gives you the number of hours by program for all enrollees. As you can see from the screenshot, it simply lists the 7 CAEP programs and gives you the total number of hours for each. Getting a little bit into it, you run, or I put it getting more into it, when you open the setup window, you have a section called report selection. You can see you've got that big list of CAEP reports. Some of you know this well, some others not so much. but you have several different CAEP reports you can select from in report selection. Here's the screenshot that shows the one you want. It's called CAEP Program Hours. We're just running this one. As you get, before you select it, this is in the setup window. So this is the main part of the setup window. There's two key areas you want to bring to your attention. One is called CAEP Program Hours. By default, it's just going to give you, the default selection where it's rolling up ABE, ASC all into one. You have some other options where you can spread it out and report ASC and ABE separately. You can report it as 3 programs, which, for most of the real world is the way they do it, where ABE is 1 program, high school diploma is a 2nd program, and HSC is another. That's what you're doing in CAEP program areas. If you just leave it alone, you'll just have it be exactly like NOVA, where ABE includes all of your ABE and ASC. But these buttons just allow you to play around with it a little bit to adapt to the way you assign your programs. The other key thing to keep in mind is the box that's checked right below it, use NOVA format for hours. In most scenarios, you're probably just going to want to leave it checked. By leaving it checked, it will drum up the report that's in that NOVA format. I'll just say, hey, they look pretty similar, but the one on the top is the NOVA format. That's super simple, where it's just giving you those CAEP program areas and giving you the number of hours for each. If you want to spread it out a little bit and make a little bit more sense of it, you can uncheck that box and you can see it gives you total and proportional hours. It will basically look at, that will be for those that are in more than one program. It'll do all those extra calculations to really try to divide it according to the amount of time spent in each program. I'll just say that's if you're a stickler, you might want to do that. What I will repeat is if you're not a stickler, you may want to consider doing it the easy way and just selecting NOVA format for hours. That will give you that super simple format at the top that just lists the programs and the hours, and it's a lot simpler to copy. I'll just stop and say any questions. I have 2 more things I need to say, but are there any questions right now? Take that as a no. All right, so the 2 things I wanted to say is this came up in kind of water cooler discussion before the training. In NOVA, there's a row for EL Civics. So the folks here at TAP were reminding me about that issue just a few moments ago. I had fondly forgotten it somehow, but now I'm fondly remembering it. It sure looks like it's got TE fingerprints all over it using a name like EL Civics, but I'll reiterate, it's definitely not in TE. We don't separate EL Civics in our reports. Quite frankly, we go way out of our way to not do that. So if you have that row for EL Civics and you're running the TE report, my suggestion is to just leave it blank, leave it the way it is. 100% of your hours for EL Civics will get put into ESL. From our perspective, that's where it belongs. So that's where it goes in the report. So you can go ahead and leave it blank. I think there might have been some MIS systems, according to some others might shed light on it. But I'll just say, don't worry about that EL Civics. There's nothing missing from the program hours report. All of those EL Civics hours are put into ESL. I think that's it. I don't have anything else to say. I think that covers what we need to here. But I'll just say, any questions? Anybody want to point out something that I might have been missing?
Hi, Jay. This is Hillary at Golden Oak, and I do have a question for you.
All right.
In the TE reports, it lists workforce preparation, and in the NOVA, it is workforce re-entry. Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, because
yeah, I mean, long story short is, I'll just say from our point of view, it was renamed about 5 years ago. Re-entry was the name it had at the very beginning.
Okay, and we're having issues because in what's pre-populated in NOVA, it's showing us as 0 students, but in TE we do have workforce preparation students, so we're missing about 100 and some odd students. Would you know why?
I mean, I know that we pre-populated, I forget the exact date range of the pre-population, but I know there was some effort to pre-populate Nova. I mean, I'm sure it's old data. I have to admit, though, I'm not sure off the top of my head how old it is.
Okay.
Does
But any students in
anybody-
any class that are designated as workforce prep should be populating in that field.
That's right. If they're workforce preparation, they'd just be in that row for workforce preparation, yes.
And so I don't know if somebody else wants to chime in, but when it comes to adding in the program hours, use your most current data set, whatever that might look like. So if that's TE, or if you're getting that from, you know, another data set, what is pre-populated maybe that's on that kind of top area there, and that's the launch board 2021, 22 data. So you want to use the most current information you have.
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure how old that data was. I know that there was an effort to do that since the last time, because the last time we did this, I remember there were a lot of discrepancies with ours. So my understanding is there was some effort to at least put something there instead of nothing, to give everybody, state level people and local level people all together, you know, an understanding of kind of what the ballpark figure should be on that field, maybe.
So we're filling in, so the top section that's pre-populated is the 21, 22. But
Correct.
what we're populating is we're putting in the hours for 23, 24.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Oh, go ahead, Maria.
So in Nova, where you're seeing the program area hours, launch board data, the hours of instruction, and you're seeing launch board data, please note, and we did include this, excuse me, in the memo, the 21-22 data that you are seeing, it is outdated. As you all know, because of the delays that we experienced, given the transition from launch board into Data Vista, as of October 29th or 30th is when the 22-23 data became available in Data Vista. So given that short transition period, we are currently working on updating Nova. However, it wasn't done in time by this office hour session. It's currently in the works. So I do want to point that this is outdated, the 21-22 data. So, and then also, the whole purpose of this is just of seeing that launch board data is just to show the members that there is some activity, right? But you're still going to want to use your local systems to actually capture and report the hours of instruction that you have. So it's just for informational purposes. We know that it is outdated. And we do want you, if you know, maybe you're a community college, or if you want to see your 22-23, in addition to, which is why we also had Jay from CASAS be able to go over the reports where you can find the data in TE for 23-24, whereas for in Data Vista, we'll drop in the link. I'll spend a couple of minutes just kind of walking you through as well, because we know that's a new platform. But we'll take some time to answer some questions before we transition over to the Data Vista walkthrough, because I know there's been quite a bit coming in through the chat, but just wanting to clarify that the whole purpose of this launch board data is for informational purposes, but please do note 21-22 data is outdated, irrelevant for this 23-24 reporting period.
Oh, Yulene has had her hand up for a few
Yes.
minutes. Can you take a
Yes,
question?
Yulene. You're muted.
Thank you. I have two questions. I think Myra answered the first one in terms of having the lunch board data in there just to show that there was some activity 2 years ago. But I do know that they're moving into the Data Vista now. So I don't know if that is still, you know. Anyway, so that's answered. But the second question was, somebody had asked this, Jay and then Myra, is it too much work if we change that workforce reentry? Because we don't call that workforce reentry. I mean, most of the time we say workforce prep, or is there a way, because it seems so, it doesn't define what we're seeing, what our programs are. So is that too much work to rename that, or?
I am always open for continuous improvement efforts. And so what we will be doing in today's webinar is developing an FAQ with all the questions. We're trying to address all the questions that are coming in through the chat, but just know that if we're unable to capture all of them, we are going to be working with CAEP TAB to develop an FAQ. And we certainly open suggestions. We were discussing the breakout between ESL and EL Civics. We are also open to suggestions that how make most sense to you all having to complete this reporting while ensuring it's still in alignment with what is outlined in Ed Code for us. But we're certainly open to the suggestions that you're bringing forward.
I see there's a couple of J questions, so don't leave yet, Jay.
Don't stop sharing quite yet.
Yeah, Janice had a question. If TE is assigned to 2 program areas, would it be split 50-50 in this report?
Yeah, by default, it splits 50-50. And hey, you know that, Neil, because that was a patented slide we did forever. But yeah, that was a lot of research. And that was where it landed. By default, it will always be 50-50. If you know for sure that 50-50 is the wrong answer, then we say, yeah, you just want to create 2 separate classes and allot the hours accordingly.
Okay, and then Erica said, or asked, we have started 2 new ELL healthcare pathway programs. Which category will these hours be reflected in for 24-25 in the CASAS program?
As far as I know, and this is probably a better Myra Neal question, but as far as I know, 100% of the learners in EL career pathways are supposed to be EL learners. So I think they should all fall under ESL. I'll just point, hey, that's the bonus slide for you. You mentioned it, so yippee, you get the bonus slide. EL Career Pathways is a special program, not an instructional program. So I'll say, hey, not really hot off the presses, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, this was added. So if you need to track those learners, there is a checkbox in special programs where you can mark those learners. Iterate, it's a special program, not an instructional program. So it will not be given its own category for CAEP program hours. They'll all be filed under ESL. And I'll just say my understanding is it's supposed to be all EL learners, but I'll let Neil or Myra clarify that part. I'm pretty sure that's required, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so as far as what Jay currently has on screen, the EL career pathway. So there's going to be more information coming forward. That is going to be specific to those grantees that are recipients of the ELL healthcare pathway funds. That'll be an opportunity for those grantees reporting into TE to be able to use the TE platform to be able to collect some of the data that is being requested in NOVA. So this would allow the disaggregation of this cohort to be specifically tracked and utilize the TE platform. And I know that there was a question on, so I did want to point out, because there's going to be a couple of unique scenarios that are already arising and that will probably be arising. So it would really depend on the scenario. So, today's webinar is on program area required reporting for CAEP. And so this report is, the required reporting is for CAEP, and what is set up in there is all relevant to CAEP. Of course, there's a section where you're supposed to break out the leveraged funds. So if you are braiding funding CAEP and maybe ELL, the way that you'll look at this program area reporting is it's specific to CAEP. And if you are using ELL pathways for leveraging or braiding those funds, then you'll report add another fund. We were discussing this earlier, other state grants, you can list your ELL. However, if you are solely funding your ELL Healthcare Pathways program with just ELL Healthcare Pathway funding, please note the reporting is conducted separately under ELL Healthcare Pathways, and that's where you're completing your biannual required reports, Q2, Q4. We have a separate required reporting system for those funds. And for CAEP, program area reporting, only if you are braiding funding. And because this requirement for you to report under CAEP, are you using any other funding sources, you can then, capture that information. But if you're not using other funding sources, then, and it's only ELL Healthcare Pathways, just know that you have a separate reporting requirement that is under the ELL Healthcare Pathways. And then this TE will be in alignment with the ELL Healthcare Pathways reporting requirements. I hope that helps provide some clarity.
One more goofy thing I want to add, because I see sticklers like you lean on my screen. This slide is a purposeful error. It's not a mistake. It says EL Career Pathways and TE, EL Healthcare Pathways on the slide. That's 125% on purpose, because we've agreed with Myra that we need to change it to from career to healthcare. So the slide gives the correct title. TE still needs to be fixed. Just saying.
We had Anna Lopez had her hand up for quite some time, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, Anna was on deck for a long time. You're right.
Yeah.
She's still here.
Thank you. Yeah, it was just, I don't know if I'm reiterating, but earlier it was mentioned that EL Civics is rolled into ESL. So now when we report on NOVA, there is a column for leverage funds and a row for the hours reported. Do we do 50-50 for that, or just put everything in ESL and just omit EL
if you're
Civics?
speaking to students in EL Civics, 100% ESL. Don't put anything in the EL Civics row.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just say, any other questions?
I just wanted to reiterate what Myra had put in the chat. There is a lot of prorating and estimates that go into this, especially on the leverage fund sides. And if you're a community college, that could go on the hours of instruction side. So there might not be any perfect answers here, but you might have to do some, prorating and estimates depending on what your program is offering.
And we'll take the next couple of minutes to, Jay's able to still stick around in case there are any questions, but we'll take a couple of minutes to share the link for Data Vista and then just kind of show where to navigate in case that may be helpful for anyone. So Data Vista is up and running. Please note there is going to be continued webinars, informational sessions on Data Vista, and you're able to go on the page. I think Mandalay, thank you for having that up. You'll be able to select the year. As we noted, 22-23 data is now available. You would go under the locale type and you would be able to select your institution, and then it'll bring up the list of schools, or if it's a community college or a district. So you'll select the locale type, and then it'll show you the reportable individuals, participants, as well as by a drill down by program. So you'll have that feature as well. And as mentioned, we're working on updating, but just note, this is primarily just for informational purposes, just to show that there was activity during 22-23. However, you'll still use your preferred and also the platform that you are using at a local level to be able to report your hours of instruction.
Is there any other area you'd like me to drive to, Myra, while we're here?
I think the only other area would be to the right, which is the toolkit section. There's additional resources as you're looking and exploring Data Vista. If there are some questions that you have trying to understand the metrics or the definitions, there are some resources available, so feel free to explore, especially the MDD, the data dictionary. Please note that we are working with West Ed. I'm working with them to try and get the resources that were previously made available in the launch board. There's a lot of great resources that talked about the calculations, how to understand and interpret the data, the TE data and CASAs, when you're seeing it displayed in the dashboard. And so those are being updated. Also, if you're looking at 22-23 data, just know that when the 22-23 data was released in Data Vista, that was October 29th, I believe, there was the first release, which is AEP 1.0. And our team with the Chancellor's Office and West Ed is currently working on finalizing the remaining metrics. And so you won't see under 22-23 all of the metrics, but those are currently being finalized and will be released in the 2.0 version that is tentatively scheduled for end of November, beginning of December. So please stay tuned for that. If you go under the 21-22 academic year, you'll see that all of the metrics are there. But when you transition over to 22-23, you'll notice that there are the required metrics, which is the scorecard metrics that we use for like legislative reporting requirements. So you'll have some of the key information that you need for this purpose. But just note that the AEP 2.0 is going to be released at the end of this month or early December, and then 23-24 data will be made available in early spring. So stay tuned for that.
Okay. Any additional questions regarding Data Vista, Myra? I know that there have been some trainings. Do you know when the next Data Vista training is offered? And if not, we can always communicate out to everyone at a later time.
Yeah, I do see Megan. I don't think Randy was able to join us, but I do see Megan. We are working with the team. There will be additional webinars. Off the top of my head, I can't recall if there is one already scheduled for in the coming weeks, but do note that we'll be promoting those webinars, especially once the AEP 2.0 is finalized. And so that will be coming shortly, and we'll be communicating that through the CAEP newsletter as well.
Okay, great.
And as Neil mentioned, please don't stress too hard on this reporting process. The memo is very helpful. There's a lot of details. There's a Q&A, and there's also Nova snapshots, but also a TAP is available to help provide a one-on-one if you need additional support.
So just transitioning back to our slide deck, I'm seeing some answers and questions in the chat.
I think we're going to let everybody take a big, deep breath and let it out. And now you can ask your questions, if there are any left. I mean, we have 139 people who came to the office hours. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And no questions.
On short notice, too.
I have a question, but I can't figure out how to raise my hand.
Okay.
Hi. So I'm fairly new to adult ed, And so I did not participate in this last year. And the budget technician that we had also has left the district, so we don't have a lot of historical record. I am from a community college, and I'm really struggling with this leveraged funds portion because I've reached out to several folks about how best to calculate this, and there's so much minutia in terms of like how a class is charged, how much, what proportion of our classes is non-credit. It could be split between multiple funding sources. And so I'm really stressing about not having access to accurate information. And yeah, and I'm just not sure how best to proceed. I've broken down our CAEP funds and our ELL funds pretty accurately, but beyond that, things like Perkins, I'm really struggling to find a way to answer that even remotely accurately.
So
Yeah,
do you,
that's a-
do you have an idea of, I mean, you're not supposed to be the expert in this. If in your adult ed programs, you know, if you're leveraging funds, then you might have an idea of what's being leveraged there. But if you're not aware of it, there's no need to go out and try to, you go down rabbit holes trying to find it. I mean, you would be aware if you're using other funds in your non-credit programming, right? Or maybe is that the problem?
I think that's the problem, is that our non-credit programming is coming from multiple divisions on campus. And we offer some programming that is, you know, overlaps with what we do, but does not use our CAEP funds or our adult ed team to offer that programming.
So, I
And
mean,
so I feel like I'm missing out in terms of like, I can
well,
provide not
I
the
mean, it's,
college-wide picture, I guess.
yeah, let me try to simplify it and then I'll let Myra, since she is from the chancellor's office. I mean, what you could do is take your 320 report with your hours and uh, create a percentage and then go to your fund source possibly. If you knew how much funds were being leveraged, you could use that as a guide to prorate it. But if you didn't even know that, I don't know how much more you could dig. I don't know if Myra has any suggestions on that, but
Yeah, I would actually ask Dulce because maybe she might have some examples of how maybe you guys are handling it at a local level, especially being in a non-credit institution. Dulce?
Yeah, this is a great question. I mean, the first thing is what are the funding sources, right? I mean, that's going to be the basic of what if there's a way, and I would connect with your fiscal to say what proportion of CAPE is being used, what proportion you would need to know your strong workforce funds. So in fact, I just released this. Let me do this. This is the 24-25 compendium of the allocations and the resources for the chancellor's office. And this is a document that is released every year recently by the chancellor's office that says how much dollar amount is going to your district and what it's allowable for. So if you look on here, it'll show you how much money went to your district for strong workforce, and that is allowable for your adult learners. So yes, it would specifically identify what the student population is and the type of services in which that you can utilize this funding to potentially leverage. So if you see more than one categorical funding source that is utilizing adult learners, and let's say they're both focusing on CTE, then that would be an opportunity for you to be able to leverage those pieces, right? So this is the place where I would start to say, hey, is my school receiving X, Y, and Z? Now, where are those funds coming? So you can search control, I don't know who's doing this. Who's moving it. So manually control find, you know, I don't know, North Orange, go ahead and control find North Orange adult. Yeah. So you can see there specifically, I can go in there, keep going to the next one. That's only for one specific one. So I can see specifically how much money for each of these categoricals are being received within my district and within my institutions, right? So that gives me at least a ballpark of a number to go to my administration with for fiscal support. So you're not just shooting in the dark and you're not approaching them with, you know, is 10 million feasible or is it 10,000, right? Yeah, so you can see. So what categorical is this one specifically? So go up, go up, go up, go up, go up, go up. Right here. This is the basic needs center allocation, right? So I know right off the bat, my district got close to 400. What was it? Close to 400 just for the basic needs services. North Orange adult. Can you maybe search adult? Oh, with a space. Yeah. So this is, so go back up. So this is the funding source of strong workforce, local 17% incentive specifically, and this one's broken down. So again, this is a good starting point. So at least you know on a ballpark what your numbers are looking at. And then I would say start to accumulate that and then map out where potentially these are going towards, right? If you are a WIOA, only WIOA Title II school, then it's most likely just your ESL and your basic skills programs. And then your strong workforce are most likely targeting your CTE. Your Perkins is targeting your CTE, right? So that's what you, the student services ones is a little bit more broad, right? So think student equity and achievement program, CEAP, right? Student equity, that's a little bit broader. That could potentially be used for student services aspect of it. So I hope that answers a little bit, but I have found this document to be extremely helpful when I'm going and advocating in different rooms.
Thank you.
And that is a really good resource. It is located, it's a public document that's located in the Chancellor's Office website under the College Finance and Facilities. It actually gets released annually and is updated on a monthly basis. I was trying to see if we had our older versions, but I didn't see record of it. But you can certainly use this as a starting point. As Dulce mentioned, it is for fiscal year 24-25, but it's a starting point to use. And on the webpage as well, we have contact information within the Chancellor's Office that's responsible for developing and maybe can help provide additional information. But as Dulce mentioned, that would be your starting resource or your reference point that then you can take to your administration to help ask questions, you know, piece some of the aspects of the puzzle that you're trying to put together for this required reporting.
And next we have Jen Wilson from Grossmont has a question.
Hi, this is Jen. Let me see if I can put my camera on real quick so we're live here. I just wanted to help the person who just asked a question, and it's also kind of in response to Neil's comments of just like, don't overthink this. It's actually okay to map out onto a spreadsheet. So I would advise you on your spreadsheet, on the left-hand column, you go ahead and list all of your program funding sources. Put a grand total on column B. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and say Perkins. This year we were funded 70,000 grand. And across your columns, you're going to go ahead and pull out all of the identifying populations that we have to go ahead and say Perkins supports one of these populations, either 10%, 5%, 100%. Let the Excel spreadsheet break out your overall award against all of the populations that CAEP is asking us to support. And if you use that as a key year in, year over, as you roll this spreadsheet over, you're going to find that it becomes a template going forward. It becomes the rule of how you spend your funds and support all of your populations. So it all starts with that spreadsheet of left column is going to be all of your funding sources. Everything across the top is going to be the percentage of how you're supporting all of those programs. I hope that helps.
Jen, there's a question. Do you have a template that you would like to share?
Yeah, I can.
And how much does it cost?
Natalie, can they send it to you and then can you send it out?
Yeah, let me put my email here and I'll send it out.
Okay, great.
I really like that, Jen. That's a really good idea. I do something similar with like resources at a department level, right? Because you can look at it through a variety of ways, whether it's resources taken up or students served as well, right? Like where,
Right.
so you want to look at it, whatever makes sense for where you're at, right? If it's going to be fiscal or like just physical people being able to do the work, or the need and the capacity for the students that you are serving, right? So yeah,
Correct.
great. If you could share that Excel file, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, and what we do as well, and maybe not everybody does this, but within our CAEP program of almost 9 million, we have 6 different programs, and it makes it really easy to take your CAEP grand total and break it out even further in terms of program focus. So we'll have an EL program embedded in the overall $9 million. Put that as a single line item and show how the full amount within that program is supporting your EL population. And I'll send that template out. Just
Thank you.
There's my email in the chat.
Thank you, Jen.
Uh-huh.
I don't see any other questions, but
Well, I have one, but I can't figure out how to raise my hand.
Okay, then you can't ask
Then
the
I'm not allowed to
question.
talk.
Yeah, then you're not allowed to talk.
Quick question about the data that's in the system. And I know that we have a new platform that Neil just explained that to me. So the first question I have is, I'm able to, because I help members with entering their hours and kind of help walk them through the thought process as to how they should break it up for each CAEP program, each WEOS, et cetera. Try to help them come up with a framework in order to do that and report correctly. It's the weirdest thing. I'm able to enter instructional hours into one of the consortia that I work with, but not the other. So I don't know why that is. I'm not sure why I'm able to enter by member, help them enter, because one of the problems that we've had in the past is that members entered different hours than what came out of TOPS. And so I know the state put out a spreadsheet showing that there was a differential between people over-reporting hours and what was actually coming out of TOPS. So in order to make sure that they're putting in the correct hours, I would enter those hours from the TOPS report that I would run. I'm able to do that in one consortium and not in another, and I'm not quite sure why that is. The other question I had is that the launch board data that I'm not sure if it's from launch board or Data Vista or wherever is absolutely wrong. It's not anywhere in the ballpark of correct in terms of the number of people that were served by program area. So I'm kind of wondering, and then it says it's for 21, 22, which is why launch board has never been useful for us. It's always, it seems like 2 years in the past. It's never relevant with any data that's current. And then the data that I've always pulled from launch board has never seemed correct compared to what we have in TOPS. And so I'm just wondering why that data is there. Did I miss, because I was late, and I apologize for being late, but I'm just wondering why that data is there.
Yeah, I can answer that. We spent the first half hour kind of covering some of that. But as far as the first question around the access, it may be a NOVA access on the back end where you might have access, which is why you're probably having access to one consortia and their members versus the others. And the guidance that we provided is send in an email to TAP, and then we can help look into the level of access that you have in the other consortia that's preventing you from being able to help with the reporting because it may be granted at a member level, but we'll take a look at the access that you have and see if there's a way to give you that reporting ability.
Okay, thank you.
And as far
And
as
then,
yeah,
yeah.
so as far as the second question, in the program area reporting section, we did clarify that the hours of instruction that you are seeing under the launch board data that is populating, yes, you are correct. The 21-22 data is currently outdated because of the transition from Data Vista or from launch board to Data Vista. Because of the timing and the fact that our AEP 1.0 data did not become available in Data Vista until October 29th, I believe was the date when that was finalized and released to the public. That was not enough time for us to go in and update launch or update Nova. So it is currently in the works. However, it did not occur in time for this office hour, and I'm not sure, to be honest, if it will occur in time by the December 2nd deadline. So the guidance that we are instructing the field is just disregard, because it is from 21-22. We know it is outdated. We did post the link and conduct a brief overview of Data Vista, where you can access the latest 22-23 data in Data Vista with AEP 1.0 metrics, and that AEP 2.0 remaining metrics will become available at the end of November, beginning December. And so as far as the misalignment of what you're noticing in launch board, there's usually different variables at play. I'll drop in a link to a very helpful resource that was developed under launch board that talked about why you might see some of those differences, right? And that'll also help when approaching and looking at the data in Data Vista, because you're essentially taking the two data sets that then are calculated on the back end to be displayed in Data Vista. And so those calculations, when you're merging the two data sets, may essentially be one of the reasons or one of the factors why you're seeing the discrepancies between the reports that you're seeing in TE. But also, please note the launch board data is there for informational purposes, just to help show the field that there is some activity being conducted. So essentially there should be something being reported, but we are encouraging you to utilize your platform that you are tracking and have at a local level. And so TE would be one of those reports, or any other or platforms that you have to track those hours. Neil, feel free to chime in if there's anything else to address or add.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Jay's still on the line, but there is some deduplicating that goes on between TOPS Pro and when it gets to the state public dashboard, which is now Data Vista. So there might not be a perfect 100% match. There might be some students, the way it's calculated, and that's what Myra's talking about, is kind of that letter that talks about what goes on when we combine MIS data with the TE data, and how we do data match, and how we present that data on the public facing dashboard. There is stuff that goes on that might not jive with what you're seeing in TOPS Pro, because it doesn't have that other data set with it from the college.
I mean, it would explain probably a small difference, not a gigantic difference. But yeah, to Neil's point, when we send it, there is like a kind of a inverse data match, quote unquote, kind of like the HSC data match, where they will use some demographics to try to identify students that are in TE and MIS together. And they'll, like Neil says, deduplicate students that appear to be in both systems.
So quick question following up on Myra's comment, that what you're saying, Data Vista, is that Data Vista now has 22-23 data available, but does not have 23-24 data available.
It has some metrics of 22-23 in the scorecard, which are the required metrics that we use to report to the legislature. And there will be a 2.0 version that gets released with all the remaining metrics that are available in late November of this year or early December. And that is the comprehensive data set for 22-23. 23-24 data will be released in early spring, March, April, or March, I believe is what I'm hearing. So that should be released in early spring, and that would be for 23-24.
So question, when would 24-25 data be released?
So with this transition to this new platform in Data Vista, from what we have gathered is it is supposed to be a much quicker process for our division, our team at the Chancellor's Office and West Ed, to be able to transition and release the data in a much quicker fashion is what we are hearing. So we will find out if that is the case, and that is what we're hoping for, because we know traditionally the data historically in the launch board was released. It kept getting delayed. April, May, this year is the one unique year late into the fall, but it was because of that transition from launch board into Data Vista. And so therefore, starting with 23-24, we're supposed to be back on track. We're hearing dates of March, and then the next year data, 24-25, would then also be around maybe March of 2026. If I got the dates correct.
So, and then I guess my question is, if we're reporting this in December, how helpful is it to receive 24-25 data 5 months later?
So as far as, so we are currently in fiscal year 24-25. You are reporting hours of instruction for 23-24. And
Correct.
as we
and then in
mentioned,
December of 25, we would be reporting 24-25, but what you're saying is Data Vista would not release 24-25 until March of 26.
right. So as mentioned, Data Vista or launch board, what you're seeing reflected is there for informational purposes. So it's
Okay.
it's not intended to be the primary data source for you to utilize. Given that you are most institutions are utilizing different systems at a local level, TE being one of them. Data Vista is just to help portray that, hey, there was some activity during that year, but you're not being held accountable as a member or as a consortia to report, according to the data that you are seeing reflected in Data Vista.
Okay, great. I just, the thing is, was with it being in Nova, I was concerned that was what we're supposed to somehow match that with our hours. And so what you're saying is that's just continue to use our local data sources, which is TE, and go with that.
Yes, depending if you're a K-12 adult school, and so if you're reporting into TE, you'll utilize that platform. If you're a community college, you'll use the appropriate and available tool that you have. And then please note as well, this is also clarified in the memo. So the memo is clarifying the purpose of launch board data is there for informational purposes. I want to say that section is in the Nova portions of the memo, but the beginning portions of the memo really outline, there's an FAQ, it provides all of that guidance and clarity on what tools, what reports you can use, and really the field has that flexibility to utilize what's available, but also what local platforms they have access to.
Okay, great, thanks. Now that I made us go a minute over.
You will be penalized 1 minute in your next question.
All right, so we are at time, and like Myra had mentioned, we will pull and compile all of the questions, as well as this is your opportunity to save the chat. There are a lot of great resources that multiple people have shared. The resource that Jen offered of her template should be emailed to us here, and then we will disperse to all that are registered. We also ask that you take a few moments to fill out the evaluation regarding this program areas open office hour, hoping that it was supportive. Let us know how we can improve or support your needs in the field. And again, thank you for sharing your lunchtime with us, and we will see you next time.